And now all of a sudden they want out, or we're talking, and they're like, well, yeah, we only show on paper we make this much, but trust us, we really make this much. And it's like, well, I can't go to the bank and say, well, they want this much because wink, wink, we really doing like this.
We're in Pennsylvania. We do get snow, but not nearly as much as it felt like we used to get, right? But I mean, these things go up and down, but we're not in a heavy snow climate. Welcome back for another episode of the Garage Grit Podcast, and I'm your host, Brad Herlock, also co-founder of AA Shop Marketing, a digital marketing company for auto repair shops. And so if you're trying to figure out what's next on your list for marketing, then go out to aashopmarketing.com and read some blogs, read some updates on the Garage Grit Podcast, listen into some of these episodes, pay attention. If you're trying to grow your shop, if you're trying to improve your shop, if you're trying to turn your shop around for whatever the reason is, by all means, this is the right podcast for you to be listening to. If your attitude is, hey, I've got a couple of green dollar bills in my back pocket, so my shop must be running fine, I don't need to make any changes, then go listen to another podcast. This is probably not the right podcast for you. But if you're trying to improve, if you're trying to grow, then stay tuned, because I've got another great episode, another origin and impact series of F&L Tire from Bethlehem-ish, Pennsylvania. You're kind of south of Bethlehem, right? So Frank and Kristy, a father-daughter team, thank you so much for joining us. Say hello.
Hey, I'm Kristy.
Perfect. And Frank, thank you for also for joining us. I kind of want to hear your backstory. I mean, I love one of the things I love about the auto repair space. I say this all the time, is the number of family-oriented shops. And, either they are a family or they feel like family with their coworkers, but a lot of them are father, son, brothers, uncles, eventually, right? All of the above. And more and more I'm seeing father and daughter, and that's also awesome. And so I'm glad to be able to put you out here and share your story with us and the auto shop community. So tell us a little bit about, your storyline. How did F&L Tire come into existence?
Actually, we're a third generation. I worked for my father. He was in the tire business. And just a quick, I was 15 years old. I wanted a mini bike. My father said, get a job and you can buy a mini bike. I said, hire me. And the next day I was patching tubes. And I've been in the tire business. And my father and I wanted to start our own business. He was a manager for a company store, the General Tire, when they had their own company stores. And we tried a couple of times and it never worked out. I eventually went to work for a very large commercial tire dealer company. But I always wanted to be on my own. I was always successful making money for other people. I wanted to make money for myself. And an opportunity came up. There was a local automotive tire shop and service. I got to know the guy, and he unfortunately was at one time very successful, but the last couple of years he was in business, he just wasn't trying anymore. And his gross sales didn't exceed his gross expenses, and it was a mess. And we took over, and never looked back. And I live by two things my father taught me. He said, one, don't make promises you can't keep. Keep the promises you make. And he said, learn your applications. He goes, Frank, too many people sell tires by price. Learn what the customer wants. Sell the application. Sell the right tire, and you'll make the customer happy. And that's what we do. We ask questions. We what are you looking? I always say, you're not buying tires for the car. You're buying tires for you. What do you want? What is your expectation? Do you want best ride? You want economical? And then we go from there.
That makes perfect sense, especially in a world where the tire market, the margins in tires continues to drop, right? And so it was just you and your wife that went in and bought it together?
Well, her name's on all the paperwork, but she's never been here.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Actually, she at one time worked for Goodyear. She was in their cleaning department, and that's how her and I met. But she works for a big company, and she her only input is every once in a while is, "How was sales today, Frank?"
Okay. All right, that works. All right, so 24 years ago, you bought the shop. You had just said that it had been previously a successful shop, but the last few years before your purchase, it had become a little upside down. And so, why don't you talk a little bit more about like what you had to do to turn it around, and how long did it take to turn it around? 10 years? 2
No,
years?
no, no,
2
no. I made
months?
money my first year.
Okay,
The first thing
good.
I did is because I knew all the vendors. I knew Goodyear. I knew, the part places and stuff like that. So I sat down with my vendors, and they knew me and they trusted me. I had a good reputation with them. I said, I'm going to need you guys to work with me, and I got Goodyear to put in a consignment. So we would, that helped us a lot with inventory. I talked to some of the vendors, and everybody worked with us, and that just kind of got the ball rolling. And we were lucky in that there were still some customers coming in the door. We had a mechanic that had a wonderful reputation, and people would come in and say, "Is Charlie still here?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, Charlie's still here. Charlie's still working." And they said, um, "If Charlie's here, we'll give you a shot." And that's all you want. If I can get a shot, I can get you. Because the other thing is we're just honest. We don't. You know, if your car passes inspection, we let you know. We let you know. Maybe it's just barely, but we let you know. And
So talk to me about that, because there's a lot there.
yeah,
There's a lot of shops that are, I work with a lot of shops that are really focused on DVIs. Do you guys use DVIs at all? Are you digital vehicle inspections? No? Okay. Um, and they're using it as a tool to let customers know ahead of time the upcoming maintenance issues. And the way you just framed it, I'm wondering how much advance notice. If I brought my Jeep to you, how soon are you going to let me know that the head gasket's going to start leaking, right? Or how soon are you going to let me know that the transmission's going to start slipping on me? By the way, I'm a high mileage Jeeper, so go ahead.
That's a tough one. Uh, you know that that's a we have a way of kind of dealing with that is like we have our car care package. When that goes over the car's maintenance program, and we use Mitchell One software, which you can then pull up their mileage programs to see what's due, what's coming up. But that doesn't go into like the brakes or the tires or anything like that. So, I mean, I'll be honest, once you start seeing anything 4 below with tires or brakes, that's when I start warning our particular customers, giving them a heads up, because then, usually on a normal driver, that's like a 6 months range, something like that. Pennsylvania, I don't know where you're at. Where are you?
I'm also
Are
in
you in
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania?
I am.
So safety inspections, not all states do. So for Pennsylvania, at least once a year, if you're getting your inspections done, where at least the mechanical things are. If your tie rod ends or ball joints or stuff like that are starting to show some play, you can let the customer know. And then in the Mitchell program, you can actually make those notes for future recommendations. So anytime that customer actually pops up on the screen, it actually shows all the notes there of, hey, we recommended this, or when they were in here for the car care package, we recommended a transmission flush or a coolant flush. And, you can kind of, if they come in then for that, you can delete it, and then you've done it because now it's in their history. So it's kind of like a big way of doing it. But not everybody wants their car thoroughly gone over when they brought it here. If they are just in for an oil change and you start running through their car and start giving them this big long laundry list of things they need, now they're upset with you because they're like, well, why did you do that? Why? I'm only here for an oil change.
No, I just had
things like that.
Yeah, no, we just had an episode recently about how they had that. This guy was also in Pennsylvania, and how they had a lot of pushback when they started to do those types of thorough inspections in advance. And his solution for it was, well, he said two things. I think he said one was he started to be very proactive at explaining to people what they were going to do before they did it. And then it got to the point where they're asking for permission to do it. Like, this is what we're doing. You can opt out, as opposed to actually asking, right? That's really what it came down
Well,
to. And then he actually,
and that's what our car care package does.
okay.
If you sign up for that, you know,
Okay.
you're paying one additional extra for us to do that.
Mm.
You know, it's not a service.
So the
that
car
we're
care package
providing
is an
for
extra,
free.
is a paid service for you.
Is a paid service, so they know what they're signing up for. They're paying for it, and then we do the rundown with them. You know, so it's, and that package includes the oil change. So it does the oil change and goes through the maintenance program, checks the battery, does like a safety check on the car. Like, you're signing up for that. So you know you're signing up for that. So then when I give you the rundown, it's not this,
Mm-hmm.
you know, crazy thing that I've just done because you paid for it.
And that's
Right.
when we'll go by to the manufacturer specs. And if the manufacturer says do a coolant flush at 80,000 miles and they got 79 or 80 or 81,000 miles, we'll say, oh, by the way, the manufacturer is recommending to do a coolant flush or a trans flush or differentials or whatever, you know. And then the only sales pitch we'll make at that moment in time would be, you want to do this only to protect your warranty with the manufacturer. You don't want to provide them with an excuse if something goes wrong somewhere down the road, that you didn't do the coolant flush on time, or you didn't do, you know, this on time. You know, don't jeopardize, you know, your potential
And it
warranty
protects their
down the road.
investment too.
And that's our sales pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Protect your own investment, protect yourselves.
Protect your best, protect
Uh-huh.
yourself.
Right.
You know, if they're getting close to 100,000, hey, you're getting near that tune-up time, you know. And even if they're at that 80 where they're this and that's due, it's kind of like, you know, why don't you just start ticking things off now? This way it doesn't come at you all at once. You know, get that coolant flush now done. This way, when you get to that, you know, tune-up time, it's not in addition to that. Like, you're not looking at a $2,000 bill. Let's kind of tick it off slowly so it doesn't hit you all at once. You know, because that's, you know, I tell people, like, you don't need to do all the flushes all at once. Do one each oil change, you know, do what you can afford when you can, and then eventually you're through it. You know, you get over that hump, and now you can move on. Like, you just, you know, you work with the customer, you kind of feel what they want to do. Some of them want to do it all at once. Some of them can't, you know, they just financially can't. So you just kind of just say, okay, well, let's make a list, and we put that in the system, and, you know, eventually you get through that list.
Well, I kind of like that approach in that that matches, Frank, what you said about you're not selling tires, you're selling what they need with that tire, right? You're meeting their needs, and that's, I like that. I like that. I like the reality of that. What percent of your customers, if you don't mind me asking, what percent of your customers are on that car care package?
Oh, that's a popular one. Ooh.
A lot.
A lot.
And we have some people that do it every single oil change. We have some customers that
Oh,
just do it
I
once
was
a
under the impression that you
year.
pay once or annual for that package,
No,
but
no,
every time you're
no.
in, you can opt.
You
Every time you're
Yep,
in, you can
every time you're in,
you can upgrade
you
to
get
that
up to
package.
that package.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay. So
So
in
we
many
have
ways,
people
you're
just
not
do it in
DDI.
minor.
You're doing inspections,
Yeah,
but it's an opt-in, paid-for service.
correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Okay. All right. Good. May I ask how much you're charging for that service?
If it's a full synthetic,
full
it's
s-
$130.
Okay. Oh, and that includes
goes
the
for
actual
free.
oil change then at that point.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and most cars, I mean, it feels like the shift to the full synthetic shift is on, right? I mean, the number of cars that are just all full synthetic it keeps growing and growing.
That's the standard
Yes,
oil change these days.
it
It's
is.
odd for a car to be conventional.
Right. So
That's the oddball now.
it is. All right, so let's go back to the history. You bought the shop 24 years ago. How big was the shop at that time? Charlie was your only mechanic.
Charlie was our own mechanic. At the time, we had 5 bays, and out back was a car wash that was operated under a separate owner. And he only lasted a year or two, and he moved out. we had an opportunity to buy the property. So we bought the property, we gutted the
Mm,
car wash and made 2 more bays.
okay. And how long ago was the expansion?
About 20 years.
All right, so within 4 years, you turned it around within 1 year,
Yep.
and then you reinvested in it within 4 years. And so is that what you have today, a 4-bay shop?
Yeah. What
You
was
didn't
it?
grow it is that what you have today, is a 4-bay shop?
7.
So you grew it again since then. And when did you do that, and where did you put it?
There was just space. So we just said, let's knock, it was like where they stored their tires. And
Okay.
we just knocked it down and made a bay. And, you know,
So it's F&L Tire, and Kristy has the name is F&L Tire and Service.
yep.
What percent of the business is tire today versus service? Okay. So not only are the margins of tires shrinking, but the focus of tires are shrinking as well. And do you expect it to continue? I mean, that's kind of where you got that extra space, right? You used to keep a larger inventory because it was such a significant portion of the business, and now it's plus it's so easy to get parts and tires pretty quickly. So you don't necessarily not need to be the one storing it. So now you're at 7 bays. Do you have room to get an 8th or a 9th bay?
Now, we're
You're capped out.
our max because we're at a point where the township won't let us budge anymore.
So that's really interesting because we just had a couple months back. We had in October. We had a podcast. I know that your shop policies are no religion, no rules, or no politics, no religion. Right. But we actually really opened up that can of worms on a shop owners panel back in October of 2025, where we talked specifically about the local municipality
Oh, yeah.
politics and how it's important to pay attention and be involved and vote only because they might actually put the kibosh on your business. They might actually, stop things. And so it wasn't planned. It just happened to be that one of the guests for that panel ended up having to leave early on in the panel because he had to go to court because he cut down a dead tree on his property. He was being summoned into court for cutting down a dead tree on his property. Crazy.
When we first started, you said those streamers that you run across your entrance to a
Yes.
hole.
Yes.
Township came in and told us we had to take the streamers down. They made too much noise.
Okay. The compressors are fine, but the streamers are a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Compressors, the guns,
Right.
cleaning of wheels,
Well,
all
that's our
that.
problem. If behind us is all residential.
Okay.
They complain from time to time that, if we're working outside, because during the summer months, we will go outside and do whatever we can outside on a vehicle, fix a flat, go out there with a floor jack and fix a flat and stuff like that.
Yeah. The 8th bay.
Because the people behind us are all of a sudden like, you know,
Right. It's kind of like your 8th bay, but not really.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and the township won't let you build anymore. By the way, that's how the conversation of the township regs came in into the equation, Kristy, was the township won't let you go anymore. So what's next for the business is kind of one of my questions.
Well, we have looked at other locations.
Okay.
So that if we expand, it would be like that. The problem that we run into is, a lot of these small shops or owner operators, they've been playing with the books all their lives, and now all of a sudden they want out, or we're talking, and they're like, "Well, yeah, we only show on paper we make this much, but trust us, we really make this much," and it's like, well, I can't go to the bank and say, well, they want this much because wink, wink, we're really doing like this. I said, it doesn't work that way. And so that's always been our challenge, is like, they want They want full price and it's not on the, not in the paper. So
If you're going to have an aggressive tax management strategy, and that's how we'll politely call that, all right? If you're going to have an aggressive tax management strategy, okay, but let's have some forethought and planning involved, right? And have a little bit of a less aggressive tax management strategy, 3 or 4 years before you go to sell, or ask for a loan from a bank, or all of those things, right? And so, yeah.
yeah, when we bought the property, the real estate, we had to, like, for 2 years be less aggressive with our tax management because I had to show to the bank, you know,
Right.
we could afford to buy this piece of property.
Right.
And so that's what we had to do. So yeah, sometimes you got to be less aggressive. I like that.
Yeah, you like that? Okay. It's all about the tax management strategy, and it's a good time of year to be thinking about that, right? So, um, so, okay,
Well, I remember when we almost bought that business down in
Yeah.
Allentown. They were focused on, it was closer to like Center City, Allentown, and they were focused on used tires. That was their big thing, used tires. And we were looking at it and we were pretty close until we found out that you cannot get insurance to sell used tires on the business. So, shocker. So, all those garages down in Allentown, either they're grandfathered in somehow or have no insurance or not letting anybody know they're selling used tires. So it kind of just like collapsed very quickly after that because you couldn't support a business, especially down there if you weren't in the used tire business, but then you couldn't get insurance. So
yeah,
there.
yeah, no, that's interesting. All right, so you're in the market to find other shops. I mean, if the right opportunity presents itself, you're willing to grow. What do you think? There's so many moving factors. I recognize that I don't want to pin you into a particular strategy, but what would be your preference? Would it be to take the FNL name and add it to a second location, or would it be just, yes, okay, you didn't even hesitate, boom, yes, I want to spread the brand of the FNL name, okay. And if the township didn't stop you from growing here at this location, is there space for you to do that?
Yeah, we could easily get another 2 or 4 bays.
Okay. Now, that's interesting because to me, that sounds like lost revenue to the township. Right. I find that interesting. But as you mentioned, and probably it wasn't this way 24 years ago, there are very close neighborhoods right up against you on the property line in the back.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they weren't there 24 years ago, right?
No,
So
they were
that's
there.
oh, they were? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We just have a thick tree line between us and them, so that's
Okay.
our sound barrier. But let's face it, sometimes it doesn't do a very good job of keeping our noise level down.
Right. No, I can see that. Okay. Huh.
We had complaints because the trash truck was coming in at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning and picking up our dumpster.
Right. Yeah, but you didn't contract them to pick it up at 4:30 in the morning. That was on them, yeah? Okay. So okay. All right, just checking. Just what it sounded like a little strange. All right, so you're in the market for another shop. That's fun. And it would be another F&L location. So, but in the greater Bethlehem, Allentown, Pennsylvania area. And do you think it would be a 2-bay shop, a 5-bay shop? How big would you be interested in?
I would hope for 5. I don't think.
Okay.
2 bays, it's too limited. You can't.
Can't really.
If you're doing a brake job or doing some mechanical work, and we don't have the parts in stock, so now you got to wait an hour or something
Yeah.
like that to get
Right.
parts, or
Right.
all of a sudden you've lost 50% of your bays if you only got 2 bays and you're waiting an hour for some goofy part or whatever. So no,
Right. I get that.
yeah, our
I think those 2-bay shops are really set for those like quick Jiffy Lube oil change places
Mhm.
where you can't
Mhm.
really tie your bay down long. You just got to pump out
Or it's for the
work
guy
as
that
fast as you can.
it's for the guy that is basically there all by himself. He's the owner, he's the head mechanic, he's the head cook, bottle washer, he's
Right.
the
Right.
everything. So
Okay. But what's next? So are you guys partners?
are we what? Partners?
No.
No. Okay.
Legally.
Okay. So Kristy, what is your role there in the shop and how long have you been there?
I would call myself the manager, sales associate, woman of many hats. I've been here since 2006 full time when I graduated college. And while I was at Moravian right down the road, I kind of helped my dad out, kind of worked, I would tell you, part time a little bit on that. I did my, uh, I graduated with honors from Moravian College and I wrote my thesis on the Goodyear Dunlop tire acquisition.
Okay. All right. So you're in the
So,
space.
I was
How did the
in it.
professor take
I
it?
was in it.
How did the professor take to that particular?
They knew about the business.
Okay.
A lot of, especially when you're kind of in those honors programs, you become very personalized with your professors and your advisors, and they knew about the business. And when I was in my accounting classes, if I was asking a question, especially if it was tax related or book related, they'd be like, well, is this a question for you or is this a question for your dad for the business? So they kind of expected that in a way, and kind of were like, right to something, something that you can kind of pull from. And my grandfather was in the tire business, my dad was in the tire business, so it was something that I could definitely kind of get into. And I just found it interesting, market share, CEO spending at the time to get that market share and those bonuses that, everybody was doing it. It wasn't just Goodyear, it wasn't just the banking world. It was rampant everywhere. You know, Goodyear didn't buy Dunlop because they liked Dunlop tires. They, you know, they were trying to expand their market share. So that was really kind of the interesting aspect. That is, it was rampant in every single industry and um, stuff. It was interesting in that respect. And as once I picked it, it was more of a challenge to find a lot of research on it because it's not like, people were writing a lot about this little merger that occurred between Goodyear and Dunlop, so nobody was. I was the only one. So, but yeah, so that was kind of my thing. And then I was, working on graduating, and the plan at the beginning wasn't to go to work for my dad. I was being recruited by other companies, and then because my cousin was actually here working with my dad at first. And then he went and he moved back home to upstate New York. And my dad, I like to say he came into my room a little bit before I was getting close to graduating, made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And so I came to work for my dad. And, I was a young 21, 22-year-old kid and gave me some really sweet hours. And, you know, just it kind of just worked out. And then I just more and more just started getting more into it. I went down to the Goodyear University down in Florida and did that whole thing for a little while, and um, really just kind of, fell into it just in that way.
Right.
Started and then here I am.
Okay. All right. And so what's next?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. I mean, I get the sense that,
it,
I get the sense that Frank's probably, I mean, is he looking to purchase another shop? Yeah, maybe, but it's less about.
yeah, but that's that's the tough part, as ideal as that is, that's also tough. The challenges of finding trustable people to run your in and day garage is also a challenge,
Mm.
because it's kind of like what we discussed. It'd be like finding the new me.
Hmm.
Who can we trust? Because right now it is just my dad and I that run this place.
Hmm.
When he goes on vacation, I'm here open to close. If I go on vacation, he's here open to close.
Mm.
So
Well, now I'm going to just chat about how shop owners, everyone listening to this can relate to that. And the exceptions are the ones potentially who have gone through they've documented all of their processes to the nth degree, right? And they've developed a system at the shop where if people follow the processes, they don't necessarily need to be there, right? They wrote down what was in their mind for everyone else to partake, and even how to do that is ever changing. But the November 2025 shop owners panel is exactly about that topic, where to begin and how to actually tackle those things so that you could potentially take Friday off and without things blowing up. Wouldn't that be sweet?
yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, even because like we've tried to, train some of the techs that
Mhm.
have a little bit more personable skills, because that's not a thing that all technicians have.
right,
Some of them are great mechanics, but they're
yes,
not great customer service
right,
people.
right,
So there's a challenge in there, even finding one that kind of was good at that and be like, okay, well, let's try to train you for the counter to check people in
Mhm.
and out.
Mhm.
But some of them, like a computer scares them.
Right.
It's funny, like with computerized cars,
Mhm.
they're fine with, but my desktop is like, whoa,
What is this? Yeah. So
what is this? I don't know these buttons, you know, and so it just became, that was like the big thing. It was just like, okay, wow, all right, don't touch it then.
yeah. Now, do you have a lot of connections to other shop owners in the area? A lot of your competitors?
We have a couple.
Mhm.
There's one that's a few blocks away. That's another dealer.
You don't have to name them by name,
He's yeah,
but it's
he's
fine.
yeah, yeah. But he's there open to close.
Okay.
I think he struggles with finding that person that can help run.
Yeah. Well, the
There's
number of
another
times.
one that I'm friends with, but he's bigger.
Okay. And so
It's
he
harder
has
for him
people
to have that.
who actually their job is the front staff, right?
Is the front.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I was about to actually say is I've heard so many shop owners who they try to grow their car count or their average repair order or both to the point where they are they're able to afford to hire that front desk person. And then when they do, they're not training someone out of the back necessarily. They're actually hiring somebody from the hospitality industry.
Yeah.
Someone who it's almost easier to teach car than it is to teach people.
I agree, because that would be what I was.
Okay.
It's not like I grew up working on the cars. I mean, I had car interests. I liked cars. I can't say that I was a mechanic in any way, shape, or form. I was more very personable, customer based. Women walk in and they love seeing another woman behind the counter. That's a huge thing, for some people, so that was kind of the appeal for me. So then it became, okay, well, let me learn the tires. Let me go for my state inspection license, my emissions license. Let me get training on this so I can have those in-depth conversations with everybody. So that was me. That was me getting that training.
Sure.
So I could be that person.
Have you ever heard of Ask Patty? So Ask Patty of askpatty.com is a certified female friendly repair shop. So you can go get certificate and then you have the little badge of Ask Patty on your website or at your front desk. And what they do is they certify you as being female friendly. So I guess what I'm saying is, You're not
I
incorrect.
should do that.
Right. Well, sure you
Yeah.
should. Of course you should, because you've already got it in place, but you've actually said the experience. You've talked about how there's a group of your customers, a large enough segment that when they come in, you can feel or see the weight fall off their shoulders when they see you. And they feel like they already have someone, an advocate in many ways, right? That's,
Yeah.
yeah. So
A
that
big thing, and I can talk to them, and I'm not, especially with the women, they go into some of these garages and they feel like they're being either talked down to or whatever it is, and I get it. I've been there, done that, kind of thing. So, it's just really just having that conversation with them that's more to their level, to their understanding. I can relate, we talk about kids, we can do, this, that, the other thing. Like there's that part of it, you know. And so you build those trusting relationships where, there's people now that come in and say, Kristy, I trust you, you know, just do whatever you got to do.
Yeah.
Whatever you think is best, I'm going to do it.
Right. Right. Do you get the whole, what would you do if it was your car question?
Yes, all the time.
All the time.
What all the time I get, what would you buy? I get what tires would you put on? What would you be doing if
Right,
it was
right,
me?
right.
Or would you be keeping it? Would you be selling it? Would you be putting this money into it? All the time.
So
I
I started to adjust the question when I used to ask the question a while ago, because many years ago, my mechanic about 20 years ago was actually just a friend of mine. He had a kind of like a backyard mechanic shop. Maybe I shouldn't admit that on this podcast, but he was a friend of mine. He was trying to start out. I was trying to help him, and he was, and I started to learn that I had to ask him, not what would he do? I had to ask, what would you do if you didn't know anything about cars? Because he didn't mind breaking down on the side of the road, because he could go take tools out of the back and fix it real quick. And so, and I don't have that skill. So I had to find myself asking, because I've always been more of a high mileage driver, as far as, the cars that I've owned. That was,
Well, that becomes part of my question to them. Is I always ask, like when they ask me that, and I'm like, well, I need to know what your plan is. Are you that high mileage person? Are you planning on getting rid of it in a year? Like a lot of my answers are based on, well, what's your
plan?
What's your plan?
And where
I
do
need
you
to know your plan?
okay, so I'm your customer, and you ask that question of me, I give you the answer, and you respond for that particular ticket. But do you have to ask that question again of me in 6 months? Or do you store that information somehow in Mitchell so that you kind of, hey, are you still planning on keeping this car for another 100,000 miles? Like, what does that second conversation, because hopefully I've got a trust relationship built with you. And the reality is, even though in a way we're all narcissistic and we think that we're the only one, but we're not, right? You're dealing with 20 of us every single day, but
Yeah.
and so you can't possibly remember all of us, right? So how are you storing?
Try as I might, and as much as people think I even know their voice on a phone.
Okay.
They're like, oh, Kristy, it's me. I'm like, okay.
That's great. And it's me.
It's you.
And it's you and it's me. That's great. This is a pleasant conversation. So, all right. No. So how are you? Yeah. How are you managing that? You're not.
Really.
I'm looking at your eyes. I'm looking at your.
Tough. That's tough.
So wouldn't it be fun though if you had a CRM that you could actually allowed you that space to?
Yes. If I could be allowed that space. I mean, granted, if I'm having that conversation and they're saying they're going to keep it, and we're starting to build that list I talked about, where let's build this list of things you should be doing, then that's in the system and that's there. And then I know that that person is working towards keeping their car. There's times where, in the notes we put, especially with Russ these days, when we know those cars are nearing the end of their road, those will be in the notes. So, I know, one, we're checking for rust when it comes in for its next inspection, but two, I'm not going to be trying to throw millions of services at them on a car that could be Swiss cheese next year.
Yeah.
So it's, It's a balancing act.
Right. Okay. All right. So if they're not in that car care program that you have, then you do have to ask them that question again down the road, usually. Yeah. Okay. Huh. And the reality is the answer could change, which is why I framed it as, are you still looking to do this with your car, as opposed to what are you looking to do with your car?
Yeah.
Because,
Because people's lives change.
sure,
They may be thinking that they're going to get rid of that car, but
sure,
then, life happens.
right.
And guess what? They'll be talking to me, be like, yeah, we ended up keeping it. And, now we need to do all this work that you had mentioned. And I'm like,
Right.
wow, okay. Let me remember what we did.
Yeah, yeah. No, people who've listened to all the episodes of this podcast have heard me share this story before, but I mean, my attitude used to be, I would get a super high mileage Jeep Grand Cherokee and drive it until it was done. And until it was done, I would do some maintenance. I didn't want to necessarily get in an accident, but yeah, I would just until it was just tired, and then it was disposable. I would have a tow truck come and clear it off the road and put it in a dump somewhere, right? So, and then I would just go out for as little as possible, get another one for cash, and take that for as long as I could. I was still doing, like I said, basic maintenance and whatnot. I would joke about how I don't have to do an oil change anymore because it's leaking so fast that I just put
You're just
more
adding
in.
it.
But it's a joke. And for those who are environmentally people, yeah, right. So,
Sorry.
yeah, but it's like you said about life, kind of sneaking up at you or making the changes for you, and all of a sudden, I was, my son was about 1 year old. He was asleep in the back seat, and it was quiet because I knew it was quiet because I could hear the parts of my transmission fall on the ground as I was driving down the highway. And so I could not change. I eventually was able to pull over somewhere and off the highway, and my wife had to come and pick us up. So, the next Jeep was not the same plan. So, right, I had to
Different.
do a little bit of a different plan and maintain it a little bit differently for a little bit longer. So,
Because I'm sure she was so happy that you broke down with the 1-year-old.
pleased, absolutely. I mean, why not come pick me up at 9:30 at night in a dark parking lot with a
with your 1-year-old.
So,
Yes, I can see those eyes right now. I'm
yeah,
sure that was wonderful.
it was a great conversation. So, but I don't know. I find that really interesting because it's like you said, you're trying to develop that rapport with people, and you have the knack. You can tell that for those types of conversations, and it's a very difficult thing to teach. But there are coaches out there who focus on the front end of the shop, on coaching those types of things, and so. I don't know. It's worthwhile considering if somebody is interested in going from the back end to the front end, but otherwise it makes sense to me to bring somebody in the other direction. Does to you as well? Okay. So is that next? Is that in the plan?
That would be more the plan. Yeah.
Okay. Or do you have the capacity to add cars currently to your 7 bays? Like could you actually pick up the amount of volume to help cover the cost of that new person?
We could if I could get technicians. That's another part of the puzzle, is keeping and maintaining technicians to keep the car count up in the bays that we have. Because that would be the transition, me to take more of my dad's role, and like I said, kind of is find the new me for up front. That would be kind of like the next phase of this thing. And yeah, you could do it more if I could find techs, but that is also really challenging. I feel the younger kids aren't getting into too much of the hand dirty jobs, too much of the trades. The trades, I feel, are being ignored.
They have been for a while.
A lot.
I'm here to bring some optimism.
Tech level is down.
Yeah, but I'm here to bring some optimism because I've been hearing stories of the newer Zers to Z. It's Generation Z, I think, that are like in the late teens, early 20s, right? I think they're Zs, Generation Z.
Okay.
I'm hearing that there has been a slight uptick in tech, in the trades and whatnot, and I know from my own anecdotal, but the people that I know that are in that age group, there are more of them that are
Well,
becoming.
that's good.
Yeah. Now, are you connected to any schools in the Bethlehem or Allentown area?
We are.
Easton?
We
Okay.
are. The Bethlehem VoTech.
Okay. And aren't they putting out people, or are they being swept up by the dealers?
Being swept up by-
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how do you
For the most
sweeten that
part,
pot? Let's brainstorm. How do you sweeten that pot to explain
We're
to them?
closed on Saturdays. We're closed on weekends.
Okay. All right. That's a big deal.
That's a huge, huge deal is we're closed on the weekends. I want my weekends just as much as everybody else. And I was the one running the Saturday hours. So, especially when my family was growing and things were starting post-COVID, when you started to value family over work, you needed more. You started to really want to do that work-home life balance. And we were reading more and more about garages closing on the weekends and having that work-home life balance. We took the plunge, and I will never look back.
Frank, you're shaking your head no. You liked working Saturdays?
No, we had actually the year we closed, we did not have a sales decrease. We actually ran even, and because we're a family business, and most of our customers feel like they're part of the family, and they know us,
Right.
they know that Kristy's my daughter. They know
Yep.
that the L is my wife, that she's never here. There's that connection, and I can't tell how many people said, "Good for you for closing
Good
for
for you.
Saturdays,"
Right.
and they say, "Okay, we'll just work around your schedule. We'll be here on Thursday or Friday or whatever."
It's a common, I hear that. It's a common theme I hear all the time. Close Saturdays, make the same amount of money.
Yep.
Hooray.
Yep. Didn't
So
hurt us not one red cent.
nice.
bit.
Nice. Okay.
And as much as the guys were worried about it affecting their paycheck, and at first the texts were like, because Saturdays was overtime for them, and they were worried about their decrease, and it was like really the guys were like not so on board with it right away. Now, if we tried to say we're going to go back and work on Saturdays again, I think I would have more of a revolution on my hands
That's funny.
than when we brought it up.
So is the pay comparable between a dealer and you?
Probably not.
Okay.
That'd be the big thing.
Mm.
Some of those VoTech kids, that's probably the same. What I tend to offer more than what I think the dealer can is more hands-on experience here. I don't know, I would be giving one of those techs a bay. They would have to set the lift. They'd be doing the oil changes. They'd be changing the tires. They'd be working.
If you want to be an errand boy or a number, hop over to the dealership. And if you like to go into work Saturday morning hungover, sorry, but I mean, if you so I mean that is part of the reality. All right, so it's how do you actually go about presenting that to people? Could you improve upon so how have you done it, and could you improve upon it? Let's just brainstorm here real quick on that. Go ahead.
So how we kind of do it right now, which gives me some kids every once in a while, is the relationship I have with the coordinator for the VoTech school.
Okay.
He knows our business. He's come in. He sees what we have going on here.
Okay.
So when he sees a student that he thinks would benefit from being here, like they want to be in a garage setting, they want to work, they don't want to be in a dealer, and there are some of those kids that do. They don't want to be in that big thing, they want to be in that little garage. So he feeds those kids to me.
Okay.
I'll get the email from him saying, this kid.
Have you had a conversation with him that said, I need 2 more or 4 more, or I don't know how many more you need?
He reaches out to me sometimes being like, do you need anybody?
Okay.
And if I don't need anybody, I'm saying I'm good right now. Or I'll reach out to him and be like, I need somebody, because, because he'll remember who's here. He'll be like, oh, such and such, did he leave? And I'll be like, yeah, he left. I need to replace him. Like he kind of knows who's kind of come in and out.
Yep.
And we kind of keep tabs on it that way.
Okay.
So really the rapport with the VoTech.
Okay.
thing.
All right. And so I find that interesting because I've actually had some conversations with some shop owners who what they do is they're always interviewing, even if they're not hiring. They're always every day, actually, they're interviewing. They're making phone calls to people who might be in the future on the job market. And just, hey, listen, we don't have anybody here right now, but are you open to this style of shop? This is the kind of culture that we have. And, I'm not trying to, take you away. If you're not looking, you don't have to leave anywhere. But I'm just wondering if we should keep your name at the top of the list or not. Because things change, and it was a really interesting kind of a approach that he had with that. And I hear other shops doing similar things where they're constantly on the hunt, basically, for that next technician, because we're not currently in an environment where we've got a line of people knocking on our door. Hey, can I please work for you? Right, and so, it's interesting. If and I don't think I asked you that. We talked about how many bays you have. How many technicians do you currently have? 3.
And
Okay.
we're fourth.
Right. Well, you could. I don't know your exact layout or whatnot, but I feel like you could actually have a 5th too.
Yeah.
I mean, that 5th could probably just be a runner, as far as like a prep guy, trying to get everybody so that everyone else is being more efficient.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's my job.
Oh, okay.
Until I hurt my arm about 2 years ago, so I got thrown out of the office or out of the shop.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. That happens to the best of us. So that's really but really what I like about that runner person is the idea that if you lose a technician, they end up getting inheriting a bay. And
I run for parts. I run for tires. We're lucky our primary supplier is Tire Hub, and they're maybe 10, 15 minutes away. So, we kind of laugh when she comes in. I say, well, I have my morning tire run to Tire Hub. I'll leave in about 10, 15 minutes. So it's just
all right. And that's every day?
close.
All right.
Well,
Especially
right
right
now, because
now.
we're very busy. This is the prime tire season.
Yes.
And it's not like the old
And my
days
big
where you
sales
get
going.
hot shot tires. That you call them up, they would get you tires in 45 minutes. Now it's like you got to order by 7:30. You'll have them by noon. You order by 11:30. You'll have them by 4. If a customer comes in with a flat and needs 2 tires, you can't sit there and say, "Well, hang out for the next 4 or 5 hours." And
Right. No, you can't. So I'm thinking about the nature of all season tires versus, I mean, we're in Pennsylvania. We do get snow, but not nearly as much as it felt like we used to get. Right. But I mean, these things go up and down, but we're not in a heavy snow climate. So, are people changing their tires for winter tires right now? You said we're in a big, so why are we in a tire season right now? Is it just because the manufacturers are all pushing the sales?
Well, 1, sales, but 2, if your tires are getting on that lower side, you want to buy them now before the snow actually comes.
I think
Like
there's always
if
that
you're
little bit
that
of fear
person,
of the weather. My thing is always, it's easy to sell these tires in October, November, and half of December. Come January and February, it gets tougher because they can see spring. They can't see spring from November, but they can see it from January or February. And they're getting their Christmas bill in, and like, we spent more on Christmas than we thought. That set of tires is going to have to wait.
Yeah. I don't know. I think of rain as much as a problem as snow when it comes to tires.
Yeah.
I mean, like, so it's interesting
it
that
takes someone sliding. They got to slide.
okay. They're not noticing when they're hydroplaning.
Only, yeah. I mean, only some of them, but then, those are like the real bald tires, and I'm always like, especially fall with the leaves on the road, when it's wet and wet leaves are on the road, those are just as slippery. Like, I don't like that either. But I always tell people I'm a tire girl. I know what tires can do to a car. You can have the nicest car in the world and you put crap tires on it. Well, get what you pay for.
Right. And you're doing alignments there and everything like that as well?
Yep.
Okay. And so you've got, is it a Hunter alignment rack or what do you guys have? Hunter? Okay. And is that a sales opportunity? Are you able to actually close more or sell more tires or because of that?
No, I don't think so.
Not because of that.
I mean, I guess
You can sell alignments because of it.
I always get shocked by places that sell tires that don't do alignments. I don't understand how you could sell a set of tires and not check the alignment.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, it goes.
And that's kind of where I was going is does it feed each other? And okay.
And so like I say, I always get surprised when we get a phone call and they're looking for a wheel alignment, and you ask, did something happen to the suspension? What? No, I bought a set of tires, and I felt like I said, why would you buy a set of tires from somebody who doesn't do a wheel alignment? I mean, I don't get it.
And I think the answer is they're not educated in that. And that's your job. That's the shop's job out there to educate. If you have an alignment machine that you're actually, letting people know what they need to know, what they're supposed to know.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Pennsylvania roads do a good job of knocking cars out of alignment. So
yes. It's very, very true. It's, just drive from where I'm at to where you're at, and I'll probably need an alignment.
You probably need an alignment.
It's only about 2 hours, but that's fine, right? So
yeah, and we have like a legitimate pothole season. So
we do, and we're not the only ones, but it's
just briefly. I used to do a lot of work with PennDOT, and their reason for the roads in Pennsylvania being so poor was we have more improved roads than any other state in the union. We have more improved roads than any other state in the union.
Okay. That's why we have more potholes?
Yeah, because we can't afford to fix them all. And they said, you have to understand, even though, like, let's say Texas is much bigger than Pennsylvania, we have more improved roads than Texas.
I see. Okay.
They just said it's just a much bigger challenge. And of course, they were telling us, we're improving how we build the roads and more of this and less that and better compounding, but it's still
well. All right, we can and should kind of make jokes about the roads in Pennsylvania. It's a fair comment, but also I think in climates that have more drastic, if you can post online that you have all 4 seasons in a day, right? I mean, then you've got, that kind of temperature change that fast, the roads just can't keep up. That's the technology that they need to work on potentially, right? Is that they need to find a way to have it more elasticity. I don't know. Maybe they just need to make rubber roads. Who knows? But
build Firestone where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, the rubber meets the rubber now. So who knows? So anyway, no, but seriously, I feel like Texas don't have a cold season. It's not actually cold, right? So like they shouldn't need to have this as many potholes as we do. Do you remember that? How many years ago was that where there was an enormous sinkhole on 422 down towards like the Oaks exit on Route 422? I'm trying to remember how many years ago, but it was an enormous sinkhole that just kind of happened. What the radio stations used to call the St. Gabe's curve, because there's a school that's around that curve. But
flows around here all the time, man.
Right. But it's not usually on massively, or maybe it is. Or do you have them up on 78 where it's on those types of roads, or is it on more of secondary roads?
The secondary road.
Yeah.
Well, we're on Shandersville Road, which is kind of a busy one of the main streets in Bethlehem. And we had a whole 2-3 blocks down the street from us. What a mess.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it took weeks to get it straightened out. And it still
so
it filled it up and threw some blacktop on it.
And you went down the street and put up a yard sign that said wheel alignments 1 mile.
I should have.
Okay. All right. And so that's the marketing tip of the day, guys, is if you're listening into this podcast and your roads are similar to the Pennsylvania roads, feel free to put a sign for wheel alignments next to every pothole you see. Property owner permission not required. Okay, it is. Never mind. So, I actually had someone actually put yard signs on my property recently without permission. And I was really fascinated by that, but it was interesting. Anyway, okay. So I don't know. We've talked about the past. We talked about the present. What's the longest time any of your techs have been with you? You said you had some turnover from time to time. Do you have any that's been there with you for a while?
All our techs have been here more
Try-
than 10 years. And we're probably, Dave is probably 12 to 15. Jim is a little bit more than that, and Chad is about that. Yeah. Because it is a little bit like a family, and we work together, and we talk, and
Well, how do you bring in a new person? Like, you've got this group, right? You've got this close dynamic with each other.
Yeah.
And now you're going to introduce a new person. How do you make them feel?
That's not easy because, they're a little club here. It's a little 3-man club.
Right. We've got to get them. It's got to be a 4-man club. They got to feel like they're missing, their left foot or something like that. We've got to get them in.
Down and say, Frank, bring somebody in, but we might want to check them out first.
So I came across a shop out in Colorado where the interview number 2 in the process is with the team. He doesn't even talk to them on interview number 2. You come in, all right, go meet the guys out in the shop or go meet the team out in the shop and talk to them. And then he meets with his team and says, okay, what did you think of Harry? Right, exactly. And yeah, isn't it? So I want to say I'll have to look up what podcast that was as far as that conversation. I used to have them all memorized, but my brain filled up. I don't have them all memorized anymore.
My brain filled up years ago.
Is that what happened? I'm headed out to aashopmarketing.com. And then I clicked on resources, and then I scrolled down to the Garage Grid podcast, and there are all of the episodes that we've had. And so I'm just kind of scrolling down real quick to see if I can find the episode that we discussed this. Oh my goodness. I'm still going, still scrolling. It was over the summer, and it was episode 19 in May of 13th of 2025. Chris Whited of Community Auto. He talked a little bit about that. And then he was also on a panel, I believe, of episode 17, from interviews to integration. So those are worth checking out if you're listening in and you're also struggling with that same problem where I've got a club. How do I bring in a new guy or a new gal into the club? And so, all right. So what's that?
You said the name of it was Interviews and Intervention?
I am checking. It was interviews to integration.
Integration.
So how do we integrate them into the club? How do we get them to be part of the club? That's really what it comes down to. So, but anyway, so yeah, check out those other episodes as well. So, all right. So I really appreciate the time that we've had. I've enjoyed the conversation. I've enjoyed the time that we've had. I hope you have too. And
very interesting.
And I'm hoping that,
for you.
thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm hoping that the people who have been listening will now take a moment to actually watch Frank in his new shirt and his clean shirt. It's much appreciated. And if you're listening and you kind of can relate to the F&L tire experience and you're trying to figure out what's next, then please, you've heard some episodes that were talked about. Listen to those as well. You're not alone. And maybe it's a matter of you also coming onto the podcast and sharing your story. And you could do that by going out to addi.me/join panel. That's addi.me/join panel. And you can, put your name out there. You and I will talk off camera and see if you're fit to be our guest on the Garage Grit podcast. Well, I feel like we've covered so many different things, from managing the club and expanding the club to whether or not we're going to grow, and the conversations that we have with the customers, and the one-on-one relationships that we have with them, and being comfortable with female friendly with your customers, right? And so I've enjoyed the conversation. I'm glad that we've had this time, and I appreciate that you were able to take the time out of the busy schedule. Smaller shops struggle with trying to take away even for like an hour or two, and so but hopefully I know that other shops are going to be able to relate to your story, and they're going to pick up some things, and hopefully they'll get some tips and listen to those other podcasts as well. And again, the reason we're all here is let's see how we can grow together. Let's see how we can grow stronger together. I'm a big believer that auto repair shops are the backbone I think small businesses are the backbone of the U.S. economy, and auto repair shops are such a great example of that. Again, father and daughter. So thank you so much for being a part of this episode of the Garage Grit podcast. And if you think that you've got a story to tell similar to Frank and Kristy's, then I want to hear from you. All right. I want you to go out to addi.me/join panel, addi.me/join panel. And then we'll have an offline conversation, and we'll just, get to know each other a little bit, and then see if how well not you're fit to be a guest on our show. And I hope you are. So feel free to do that and take a part of that. And by the way, if you are trying to figure out auto repair shop marketing for yourself, trying to figure out that next step, as you already know, the sponsor of this podcast, the Garage Grit podcast, is aashopmarketing.com. And so if you want to find out what your next marketing step is, you can actually go to addi.me/jumpstart, because we're talking about jumpstarting into the 2026 season. So let's make sure that you're a part of that. addi.me/jumpstart, and find out what your next marketing step is going to be for your shop. And Frank and Kristy, thank you so much for being a part of this. I was glad to have you. Any last words or thoughts that you want to share with people?
Nope. Thank you very much.
you.
It was fun.
That's perfect. Then that's it. That's it right there. That sums it up. Let me get back to work, and that's also how it goes. So I thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.